Hitting record. All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Legacy and Impact. It is, what is the date today? Today is January 18th, third week in January 2024. And as always, it is a privilege and an honor to welcome you. I see we've got people from Southern California, a lot of Southern California tonight. And Kirk, where are you, Kirk? You in Montana or are you in Arizona? Where are you tonight?
I'm in Omaha.
Omaha, very good. The heart of America, Nebraska.
Yeah.
So very good. So super excited, super excited. Obviously, there's a lot of really good things going on in the marketplace. Politically, there's craziness going on, but hopefully we will make it to the end of the tunnel, as they say. And before we get our call started, the opening is usually an opportunity for people to share something that you learned or a victory you made this week, or possibly something that maybe you lost money, but you learned a lot. If anybody has anything that you would like to share, now is the time. The call is open to you. So anybody got anything good, exciting, frustrating?
I have a buddy that he actually has employed kind of some similar stuff to like what we're doing with the insurance and being able to use that to create wealth and with your it kind of sounds like a similar strategy to what we have. I'm less knowledgeable on it. I'm still learning as we go along.
Mhm.
Whereas his parents actually employed something like that. Um, So I'm guessing that like it's basically a trust that is set up to create like the wealth for yourself.
Yep. Cool. Well, if you want to invite him to plug in, or if you want to get him on the phone with me so we can sort it out and see if he's got something new and exciting or something to share or something that we can share with him. But but what you're talking about, a lot of the wealth strategies have been applied for years. And a number of my clients, they get a steady stream of income because their grandparents long time ago set up everybody in the family and they all get, 20 to 60 grand a year, supplemental income to them. And it just allows them to have a higher quality of life, get a little bit of extra. Again, in our scenario, what we've talked about with utilizing the trusts combined with life insurance, creating a vortex banking scenario where an entity or a trust can literally become its own bank, having access to millions and millions of dollars. And then if somebody, one of the beneficiaries of the trust, want to buy a house, rather than going the traditional route of building your credit, going to the bank or the finance, to the lender, begging, borrowing, and stealing, if you or the family has access to money, the family can literally fund the mortgage and then get it paid back. As long as somebody's going to be making money based on a mortgage or a loan, I think that should be me, or that should be my family. Wouldn't you agree? And those are the principles that we're talking about. I think that's what you're talking about, Jason. And the objective within our conversation tonight in building a legacy and putting things in place that have generational impact, and with reference to setting ourselves up, our family, with generational wealth. That's the objective. And as I share with a number of the people that I am interacting with and clients, setting them up with trusts and life insurance, it's fantastic for you as the immediate person who's putting it together, but there's way more value for your children and even more value for your grandchildren and even more value for your great grandchildren. And I remember hearing the story from one of my business mentors, where would it be okay if in the future, 4 generations from now, there's a picture of you above the fireplace and the grandchildren or the great grandchildren say, oh, that was my grandpa so and so. I never met him, but because of what he did, our family's rich now. Who would like to be in that position, right?
Mhm.
That's creating legacy. That's creating legacy, and that's what we're doing here. So that's the intention of plugging in and following the steps, implementing some of the practices or the strategies that we are implementing and discussing. But cool. Thank you for sharing, Jason. Appreciate it.
So this is basically like the Rockefeller method, like how
Yeah, yeah.
they've done that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I have shared with clients and the group here, we live in a country with the most lucrative tax laws in the world. You want those laws to work for you or against you. And again, there's no shortage of opinions and no shortage of strategies. Right now, there's a lot of people discussing what the Rockefellers are doing or what they have done in the past. And it's literally setting up a trust so that the trust owns everything. And then all of the beneficiaries, and the beneficiaries could be, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people. And you can have life insurance. You set up life insurance for each of the beneficiaries with a payday when they die. But once the policy is enacted, the policy can be borrowed against in the same way that you can borrow against your equity in your house, right? So it's setting up mechanisms and tools that allow us to then be able to leverage in the event that we want to, right? And other examples of leverage is if you have a sizable stock portfolio, 200, 300, 400, half a million, a million, $2 million, and you need access to some money, you have the choice of selling your stocks, or you can just borrow against them. The brokerage house will loan you, will allow you to leverage, and sometimes people will leverage their existing stocks to buy more stocks, or they can leverage it, borrow against it for short-term loans or to acquire a property or something, and then get it paid back, right? The danger with doing something like that is that it's very much at the whim of the brokerage house. And oftentimes they'll call back they'll margin call, right? They go, we're not feeling too comfortable about, we need to get the money back, right? So then sometimes they have to sell off the stocks. Again, the downside to selling off stocks is number one, you can incur tax liabilities through capital gains, or you could incur losses that maybe you weren't planning on, because the moment in time when you have to sell them, when they're forcing you to sell them, it's not a really good time to be selling them. And therefore you end up taking some of the losses, right? Other mechanisms of leverage can be if you have sizable holdings in precious metals or gold, right? One of my associates is a venture capital player, and he interacts with a number of families that have extraordinary amounts of gold. And if you're sitting on several million or several $100 million worth of gold, you don't have to sell your gold. You just have to make an agreement with one of the banks and that it's certified. And then you can leverage, you borrow against that gold, right? Because, when you have gold, it's not that convenient to sell it because there's process and you got to move it from where it's being vaulted to somewhere else, right? But if you can sign a promissory note that says, I've got X number of dollars in gold, I'll borrow against that and secure it. It's just like, collateral in your house using equity, right? So those are different mechanisms for leveraging as well, right? And that's the name of the game. Like, there's only one way to become wealthy, right? You guys know that, right? You'll never become wealthy based on your own efforts. You can only become wealthy when you learn to leverage. And what are some of the mechanisms of leverage? We just talked about some of them.
Credit.
Passive income.
Leverage is, passive income is the result of leverage, right? So leveraging, if you own a company, you can leverage your employees. You leverage you leverage manpower, right? Hours, right? You can leverage your money, right? Or you can leverage your assets, right? Those are the different, and again, we talked what I just talked about, where you have gold, you can leverage those. You don't have to sell them, you borrow against them to leverage. And then with reference to your money, you can put your money into an investment or into something, and it's not your time and energy. That's totally passive income when your money is leveraged. And then the third is, again, this is where with reference to owning a company, you can leverage. If you have 100 employees and you're the owner, you get paid when the 100 people go to work, right? If you have 1,000 people, you can make more money because when your 1,000 people go to work, they go to work, you sell them at wholesale, or you buy them at wholesale and you sell them at retail. That allows you to leverage them, right? And again, when it comes to network marketing, which again, we're advocates of network marketing as long as you like the product and the company, by building a distribution chain, by building a team, it starts with you. And sometimes they call it, pyramid selling and things like that. But, if you have a team of 100 distributors or 1,000 distributors, they're all putting in a little bit of time and making sales, and you make money because a percentage of it flows up. Those are all examples of leverage. And it's the only way that you can actually become wealthy in America. You got to find a leverage tool, right? So within legacy, what we're teaching is both systems, ways to grow our income, either in a reduced tax scenario or tax-free. If you're investing within your self-directed Roth IRA, that's tax-free, right? If you are borrowing against some things, whether it's life insurance, again, when you borrow money, borrowed money is not taxable, right? So you can then use that money to do additional things. You can take your money and then buy investment properties, right? Again, you come up with 3%, 5%, 10%, or 20% down. The banks will give you the rest of the money in order to buy your property, right? And again, what we've talked about recently is setting up. Everybody's goal should be to get a fourplex or a triplex or a fourplex, right? So if you get a triplex or a fourplex, you keep one of the units as your own, and then you rent out the 3 other units, right? And again, when you're renting out, as long as those units are rented, that income counts towards the qualifying income for the property. So it's much easier for you to be able to buy a fourplex as opposed to a single family residence. And a lot of times when people are looking, they go into the marketplace and their first property they want to buy is a single family residence. That's not always the best angle. It's the way we've been conditioned, right? The American dream. But the reality is you're better off buying something smaller that has the ability to generate income while providing you housing and setting you up for 2 years down the road. If you decide to sell it, you can make money off of it with no capital gains, right? All strategies, all tools, all mechanisms, right? So, all right. So let's dive into the information that we have for tonight. Tonight's slides. Actually, I'm going to go to the slides. We've got a couple new people tonight, so I'm going to start with a screen share. And this is usually how we begin. And there we go. All right. So can you guys see the screen?
You froze up for a second, Steve.
I am here testing 1, 2, 3. All right. Can you guys can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, legacy and impact. The focus with the purpose of this organization is ultimately to help you build your legacy while positively impacting the world. How we do that? My computer's doing some funky stuff here. Sorry about that. Where is it? Oh, got to go there. Something happened. All right.
Yeah, you froze on us again, Steve.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we missed what you said on the first 2 times because you froze twice.
No problem. Okay, so legacy and impact, build your legacy, impact the world. The website for us is legacyandimpact.org, right? So in short, by definition, Legacy and Impact is a revolutionary and unique financial empowerment organization. Okay. We have two objectives within our collective, both for ourselves as well as for our community. Number one is to create a paradigm shift. Most people, we've been conditioned to think wrong, right? So we need to start shifting the way we think from the way we were conditioned, right? And so the paradigm shift happens within ourselves as well as in our world. And the paradigm shift is to shift everybody from consumption to contribution. And what that means is we as a society, we've been conditioned as consumers, which is whenever something comes up or we are invited somewhere, our immediate response is, well, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? Anybody ever said that to yourselves? Right?
Yeah.
Well, what's in it for me? Like, why should I jump onto a conference call? Why should I go to a seminar? Why should I do this? Why should I? Well, what's in it for me? That's consumptionism, right? So we want to create a paradigm shift from consumption to contribution. Contribution is what value do I bring to the world? Yeah, I was invited. Terrific. What value can I bring to this community? Okay. Because we all have value in our lives and in our skill sets and in our mentalities, right? So, make sense? Hopefully. Okay. And the second objective is to put you to paradigm shift and then to put you in the middle of the conversation as well as opportunities. What does that mean? Okay. When you are in the middle of conversation, we've all sat around in a dark room or by ourselves at the beach and our brains start to think, right? We're always thinking. Our brains are always thinking. As long as it stays in our brain, it's nothing. It's only a thought. In order for it to actually turn into something, we have to declare it. When we start speaking, that's when our thoughts start shifting and becoming real, right? So when you put your thoughts into conversation, you engage in conversation, you enroll others in what it is that you're doing, what you're up to, that's where possibility lives. As long as it's just in your thoughts, nothing's ever going to happen. Does that make sense? You have to turn your thoughts into actions and either beginning with words or into actions. That's how they become realities. And as a result, they then turn into opportunities for yourselves and others, right? So there are four basic principles that we all should understand, embrace, and love. Number one is success. Anybody ever heard of somebody who wanted to be successful? Anybody want to be successful? Right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean that's the buzzword. Oh, I want to be successful. I want to be successful, right? And so success is very simply, by definition, is reaching a predetermined goal, right? Now, if your goal was to be on this call tonight on time and you were on time, congratulations, you're a success, right? If your goal is to get out of bed and be at the gym for 6 a.m. and you do it, great, you're a success. Because your success lives in the moments and in the actions that we take, right? It's not a finish line, it's part of the process, right? And so after that comes accountability. This is why when you're going to the gym, if you have an accountability partner, your chances of success go up to 80% if you are doing it with somebody else, right? If you're doing it by yourself, there's a 50% chance you're not going to show up, right? And we all know this. So success, which is established goal, accountability is enrolling others in the process with you. Transformation. Transformation is essential because who you are right now, the way you think, will only generate the results that you currently have. If you want different results, you have to begin with your mind. When you transform your mind, you elevate your thinking, you put yourself in new conversations, you're reading a new book, you're discovering where you're falling down. In order for you to go somewhere else, you have to become something else, right? And at the end of the day, it all comes down to being able to master your mind, master your thought process, right? That is the definition of what it takes to get to where you're going. And everybody loves the concept of quick success. Oh, I just want to make $1 million this year, right? Yeah, that sounds fantastic. But if your mind isn't prepared for that $1 million, I guarantee the next year you're going to be back to where you started. And hopefully that makes sense to everybody, right? So tonight's topics for our conversation. Number one is the tax game for 2024. Okay, so everybody, I'm staying with taxes for a little bit because we're still in the preparation mode. But while we're in the preparation mode for getting our taxes filed, we're also in the preparation mode for, okay, how am I going to play the game in 2024, right? The second topic is Puerto Rico as an offshore opportunity. I hear a lot of people are talking about, moving out of the United States, setting up offshore companies so they can offset taxes and things like that. And Puerto Rico is very much a hotbed right now. We can talk about some of the pluses, minuses with reference to that. And then lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about blockchain and nodes. I don't know if you guys know what those are, but that's what we're going to talk about tonight. All right, so I'm going to quit the screen share and we're going to dive back into it. All right, so why is this doing this?
You did freeze up a couple of times, Steve, but that's all right. We got onto it.
No problem.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I'm this time tomorrow I will be back in California and my internet will be different. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I've been having some trouble. So all right. So tax game 2024. All right. So we can't change what happened last year in 2023. Hopefully you're prepared. Hopefully you're collecting your income statements. Hopefully you've got your expenses that are sorted out. Hopefully you have a side business that you have, or your own independent business that you have been clocking up your expenses and getting everything organized with, right? And hopefully you have, if you're going to owe some tax money, hopefully you've tucked some money away. Or if you're in a W-2 situation, hopefully you've paid enough money into the system, right? So those are the moving parts with reference to last year. If you were investing in cryptocurrency or you have a stock portfolio or whatever, there's a form called a 1099-B that will come from your brokerage house, or if one of the cryptocurrency exchanges. Make sure if you've been dabbling in cryptocurrency that you have a list of all the different companies that you were logging into and trading with. Make sure that you get all of the tax documentation for that in anticipation of your tax filing for 2023, right? That is, I emphasize that because that is one of the main reasons why people have uh-ohs. It's because we prepare their taxes, we get everything done, everything is set up so that they're in a good shape. And all of a sudden I get a phone call after we filed it and they go, I forgot about this and I made $8,000, right? Now, if because that wasn't filed, that wasn't included, then we need to do an amended tax return, okay? Amended tax returns are okay, but it's always better if you can just submit it all at one time and get it done with, so that way you can fly below the radar and you remain invisible to the IRS. Okay. Anybody have any questions about any documentation strategies for last year, 2023, before we open up into 2024? Everybody good?
So, are we able to write off like meals, for our businesses?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, meals, they get calculated at 50%, right? There are some meals can be written off as 100%, but that is when you, for example, I'm sure in your corporate world, or you've been in a situation where we've got a business meeting, we've got a team meeting, and everybody's in the conference room and they bring lunch in, right? That type of food and meals, that's 100% a write-off. Okay. Going out to a restaurant or taking a client out, that is 50%. That can be written off 50%, right? Food and
So
entertainment.
are you saying that I could actually go and take my lunch and get 50%? Because I thought with the IRS, they said only if you took out a client, you can get 50% off.
If you are working through your lunch hour, if you're not taking a lunch break and you're still working because you're under the gun or whatever, yeah, you can write that off.
Okay, so you write that off with the company credit card, correct?
Yeah, yeah, I do most of, again, put like, that's a really good point. You want to put almost all of your expenses through the your legitimate business expenses through the account for your company, right? And that way you have what I call a poor man's accounting system. Worst case scenario, you've got it there. You know, you want to keep track of who you were interacting with or what you were doing. Why is that why should that lunch be a write-off for you, right? And if you're in crunch time, you can't take a break or whatever, then legitimate write-off.
Do you have something that allows us to track that so that we can put like, notes on like who was with us and what we did so that we can cover our butts on it?
No, you set up your own mechanism. I mean, old school is get the receipt when you go to the restaurant, flip it
Mhm.
over, right on the back, who was there, you were there, and what you discussed, right? Because the receipt has the date, has the time, has the total, and then you have that information. And then again, the systems that I recommend for when you're doing your taxes, you don't have to be ultra organized. But what I recommend you do is get a manila envelope, right? An actual envelope. And you have 12 of them. And you take all of your receipts for the month, put them in the one for January, right? And if you have the discipline and you have the time at the end of the month, the 31st, you can go through and tally everything up, right? Put it onto a spreadsheet, and you do that 12 times a year, and then at the end of the year, all of your taxes are already done, right? And but if you keep them into envelopes, it's much easier to be organized, right? And the IRS, for the most part, as long as your expenses are legitimate, right? The only time you really have to show your receipts is if so there's a red flag of some sort, and the IRS sends you a letter that says, we would like you to explain this, right? And usually they're very, very specific. And every time I've ever gone in for meetings with the IRS, we sit down. If you're organized, they say, well, explain this to me. And if you explain it and you've got all of your documentation, it's like, oh, okay. Thank you very much. No problem. One of my clients was actually a super, super nice guy, very intelligent. He was working at one of the big aerospace companies, and he was also getting his master's degree from a university back east. And so he had his schooling, he had his W-2 income, but he also wanted to set up a business. And so the business that he decided that he wanted to get into was the microbrewery was just starting to take off. This was many, many years ago. And he thought he wanted to get into the microbrewing industry, not to manufacture beer or alcohol, but to plug into the industry in some type of accessories or marketing or something in that space. And he flew back to Boston and had some meetings. He flew to Portland, Oregon, met with some breweries up there, and that at the end of the day, he decided that it wasn't anything but, and that's what the IRS flagged, that he had done. He had pursued it. He had his receipts, and he didn't have any income coming in, and his travel expenses were a little on the high side. Travel is one of those red flags. You got to be very, very careful of it. And I said, if we put this in, there's a really good possibility that they're going to flag it and you're going to need to explain it. I said, do you have your receipts? Do you have all of this sort of stuff? And we went through it. He said, okay, no problem. And lo and behold, he sent it in, and he got a letter from the IRS, right? And so we went in there and then had our meeting. And that was literally what they said. Explain this to me. It's like, oh, this is what it was. This is da 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 da. And here's the receipts. This is, I met with this person, this person, this person. These are the dates that I was there in Boston. I went to Portland. These are the dates that I was there. These are the people that I met with. And they said, oh, okay, thank you very much. Done. Out the door. No questions. Right. So, because at the end of the day, when we're submitting our tax returns, when it comes to business, side business, or formal business, we're telling a story with our numbers, right? So as long as the story that you're telling with your numbers reflects reality, there should be no real issues. Where people get into trouble is when they're trying to write off a bunch of things that they shouldn't, right? They took the family on a vacation to Japan and they're trying to squeeze out, $12,000 worth of travel expenses on a business that's a local business. It's like, doesn't make sense. So you got to understand there are red flags that the IRS is looking for and red flags that the IRS will identify. And so you just want to make sure that you're not in that space. That make sense? But it's pretty straightforward and simple, right? All right. So with reference to 2024, how do we deal with 2024, right? So a couple weeks back, I had recommended that, and it stemmed from what I did over the holidays. I encouraged everybody to go off and do something, do a pattern interrupt, go explore, go on a hike, do something crazy that you've never done before. Did anybody take that advice and go do something crazy? Or do something that you've never done before, climb a waterfall. I've always wanted to do this and I went and did that. Anybody do anything? Nope. Well, I encourage you to do it on a regular basis. Okay. It's called pattern interrupt. Okay. Pattern interrupt, because 95% of everything that we do as human beings is done based on patterns. And if you pay attention to it, how you wake up in the morning, what you do, you probably do the same thing day after day after day. I wake up, I got my sandal. I don't have carpet in the house here, so the floors are a little bit cold. I got my sandals there. I put them on. Usually I go to the restroom, right? Usually I pick up my phone. One of my first things, I'm trying not to do that. The first thing I do is I want to spend time with God and just be present, be awake, right? I don't want to be touching my phone, within the first 5, 10, 15 minutes. I want to go and do what I got to do. Got to wake up, right? And then brush my teeth, wake the kids up, do my thing. Pay attention to what you do and how you do it, right? Because those are your patterns. And in order to change your circumstances, like we talked about, you got to play the game differently. You got to start breaking your patterns. It's called pattern interrupt. Rather than driving to work this way, I'm going to do this. Within my workout routine, it's important that I work out, but rather than do this, which I do all the time, I'm going to do this instead. And that's healthy for your brain because new synapses get triggered. And when new thoughts are popping into your head, guess what's going to happen? Other ideas are going to start popping in. Next thing you know, you may think about a company or a way to make money that you never even thought of. You might see something that you've looked at 100 different times, but now you see it completely differently, right? So I want to do some pattern interrupt in your preparation for 2024. Okay. So if you have a traditional W-2 income, that's okay. The fact that somebody's willing to pay you for your time, willing to pay you to learn how to run their company, that's good, right? But I want to start looking to see what else can you do that allows you to leverage your time. Okay. I know Jason's on board with 7K metals. So again, you find some mechanism that you can start leveraging, right? And again, when you're leveraging it, that it's about setting up mechanisms that allow it to grow without your presence, right? And again, with different people have different opportunities. You want to be plugging into the people that you're working with and then you want to start introducing people to somebody else. You want to start playing the game not as a a passerby or not as a spectator in the stands. 2024 can and will be your best financial year ever, but it's not going to happen if you show up the same way you showed up last year, right? If you show up the same way you showed up last year, your results are extremely predictable. Does that make sense? Right? Because the results, you see what the results were from what you did last year. You got to break things up. You got to do new things, right? So with the tax game, how do you prepare? A lot of my clients, I'm recommending you set up a trust that, and you get it started right away in the beginning of the year. That way you have the entire year for a whole new tax structure. So that at the end of the year, rather than owing a whole bunch of money in taxes, now 90% of your taxes can be eliminated or deferred. Who wouldn't mind getting rid of a whole bunch of your tax liabilities, right? So again, we start making specifics, not I'm going to do it soon, like I got to get it done now, right? So that way I get 12 months or 11 months of benefit as opposed to squeezing something in and getting 3 months worth of benefit at the end of the year. Make sense? Right? So with reference to how do I play the game? If you don't have a company, make sure you're setting up a company. It doesn't need to be an LLC, but it needs to be something that you're doing independently, right? You can reach out to me and I can either help you get set up with a DBA, or if it makes sense for you to set up an LLC, we can start that, right? A lot of things are changing and you want to start structuring that so you've got all of your pieces in place, right? With reference to, again, life insurance, there's different ways that we can start leveraging things, right? So 2024, I invite you to start really moving the stones around. When I say moving the stones around, you want to look and you go, okay, what's under this? What's under this? What's under this? What's under this? How am I doing things? Okay, what can I do differently, right? And again, if you need any additional support in trying to figure that out, reach out to me, okay? So that's kind of the new tax game for 2024. I'm inviting you to do things significantly differently. Okay. Questions about that? And again, that is rooted significantly differently is rooted in pattern interrupt, right? Pattern interrupt always generates extraordinary results. Right? Pattern as usual generates what type of results? Predictable, right? How do you create? What's the best way to predict the future? The answer, create it. This is what I'm creating. Once you decide what you're going to do, enroll others in what you're doing, enroll others in what you're doing, enroll others in what you're doing. The more people you share your vision, what you're doing, right? And again, there's so many different strategies, but it's a very simple process when you decide what you're going to do, right? Number one is you establish what it is that you're doing and the benefits for yourself. You establish what the benefits are for others. And you determine what the value is for the rest of the world. You, those who surround you. Are you guys still there? Okay. Those, okay, yourself, those in your immediate vicinity, and for your world. And you enroll.
Yes, we're here.
Yeah, you enroll people in what it is that you're doing, right? There are layers. And again, what happens is when you enroll other people in what you're doing, when they've truly been enrolled, they're going to be touched, moved, and inspired, the individuals. And they're either going to want to jump on board, lock arms with you, and do it with you. They're going to want to support you, buy something from you. Whatever you got going on, you can count on me. Or if nothing else, They're going to be there. Hey, if you need anything, you let me know. Right. And if you have 100 people that fall into that category that have been enrolled in what you're doing, you're unstoppable. Right. That's both network marketing. It's traditional marketing. Right. All right. So anybody heard about people setting up companies offshore?
Yes, I have.
Got it. A lot of people are talking about it. Oh, you can get a trust over here and set up companies and all of that sort of stuff. It is it's a very enticing proposition, right? But in order to really understand it, some of the risks and liabilities, there are some movies that I recommend you watch. One is called The Laundromat. The Laundromat. It has Antonio Banderas in it and Michael Caine. And they tell the story of a boat, of an accident, and the insurance company for the boat was set up offshore and ends up, as you follow it down, there's nothing there. And nobody on the boat was covered. The boat was not covered. There's just this huge insurance fraud thing. And so that's one of the challenges with setting up things offshore, right? Is you're very much at the mercy and the integrity of the people on the other side that are there to support you, right? And in recent years, I have become more and more skeptical based on personal experiences and getting screwed over by people, right? So I don't really trust that many people that are structured offshore, right? But it was presented to me that Puerto Rico is a completely different game, right? And so I'm going to explain to you the value of setting up Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico is really enticing. I mean, we're set up down here in Mexico, right? And not setting up bank accounts and not setting up companies yet, right? But we anticipate setting up some local entities and learning Mexican style business with some limited liability. But all of the other stuff that we're looking to do here, we're going to be having it based out of the United States, so that way we have laws and protectionary things that are there to protect us, right? But Puerto Rico is a different animal, right? A lot of real estate investors are moving to Puerto Rico because though Puerto Rico is another country, it's actually a territory of the United States. Is everybody aware of that?
Yes.
Right? We all can freely travel there, go to a foreign country, have a great time, and you don't even need a passport. Just travel on your ID, right? And that's its value, right? So you don't have to ask permission. You can go there as an American citizen. You can set up your residency there. And as long as you live there for 6 months, that's your primary residence there. Now you can reduce your taxes, your federal income taxes, to 4%. That's huge.
Wow.
Right? That's almost eliminating your tax liability. You still file your tax returns, but because your residence is over there, you don't have those tax liabilities, right?
So would you have dual citizenship over there?
No, it's again, it's a US territory, so you can live there legally, right? The
Okay.
US, it's this hybrid that's in between, and that's why so many real estate investors are over there, and they're buying, homes that would be $6 to $10 million here. They're buying them there for $2 million on the beach, maybe $3 million on the beach. So quality of life is superior. Tax implications are significantly lower. There's no state income tax. So it appears to be a win-win, right? But there are certain things that you need to be careful of, right? So again, I just wanted to throw that out there. I was listening today. I thought it was pretty exciting. because I was not aware that that the tax rate for people is like 4%, super low, as opposed to, the average entrepreneur is going to be 22%, 26%, 35%, somewhere in those ranges, right? So again, if you're interested, and I wanted to bring that up because if you recall, recently we've been talking about moving your primary residence from a state where there's taxes to another state that has no state income tax, right?
So do you have to have a bank account there?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm collecting information, but I thought that was where.
Is that, because I was learning about the Nevis and I guess the other one, because Nevis been around a while, but Nevis is asking more money to have a bank account there.
Correct. And
$100,000 plus just to have a bank account.
Yep.
Then the other one is,
Cook Islands.
yeah, Cook Islands.
Yep.
But that one is pretty cheap, but you have to have dual citizenship to go over there. So you got to have dual citizenship, but the bank account is a little bit cheaper. But
Yep.
the asset protection is not as strong as Nevis. But
Right.
yeah, I heard that there's a big thing going on where there's a lot of companies offshore that are trying to get people's money from America so they can do a lot of offshore so they can do the crypto thing. So, but yeah, there's a lot of people running for that right now.
Yep. Again, and this is why I wanted to discuss it, is I want you to have some foundational elements. I'm never going to give you all the stuff, but if it's something that you're interested, something that you're considering, then that's when you start collecting the information. But from a trustworthiness, I trust Puerto Rico much more than a lot of the other places.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Just because it's U.S. style business, that a lot of the rules and regulations are the same. So our strengths are their strengths, and hopefully a lot of our weaknesses don't spill over.
So would you build a trust there, or would you be building an LLC?
I don't know. I'm just again, I'm talking about as a second residence, right? Of somewhere to live other than stateside. Now that's the perspective that I'm discussing this from, right? Is from your personal income tax. I think the corporate structuring and all of that, if you're just dealing with the legislative sort of stuff, would be somewhat of the same, right? Same strategies. When it comes to long-term generational wealth, I'm sold out on our trust. Everything I learn, I mean, I'm there because our trust has as precedent established with the Supreme Court in 1911, right? And it's never been breached. No issues with the IRS whatsoever. It's like when they see that, it's like, oh, that's untouchable, right? So for our trust is bulletproof, and I don't think you need to look anywhere else. I'm just talking about the same because again, I've been an advocate for you guys finding somewhere else to live, whether it's Mexico or whether it's Texas or if you want to consider Puerto Rico, the weather's good. So all right.
I wouldn't mind checking that out to see if somebody would do a virtual address, because you could start up a business and do a virtual address there. So
Yeah, I'm sure all those services are available, right? That
means you don't have to be there 6 months. You got a business.
Again, I think that if because of the way the laws, I wouldn't breach that. If they say you need to be there for 6 months and they want you registered there, but it's not, but it's just a simple registration, right? That's your primary residence. So I wouldn't test things too much. So
Okay.
All right. So any questions about that above and beyond what we shared? Again, I don't have all the information, but I thought it was worthy.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Yep, Puerto Rico. Good stuff. Okay, so moving on to blockchain and nodes. Okay, talked a little bit about this before. Bitcoin is still holding. Last week or a couple weeks back, it was at 45,000. It's still holding at 43. There's a little bit of ebb and flow within it. It dropped down to 41 and then came back to 43. So again, if you are actively trading, now might be a good time to just look and see again, buy low, sell high, buy low, sell high. You can get into it, get in and out of trades, and you know, don't do it with significant risk. Make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure that you're playing with money that you can lose easily, right? And you know, that's always the best money to be investing. Is if it disappeared, it's not going to affect you much, right? So
Yeah, I play around with some of the altcoins because the altcoins are actually fluctuating from about 10 to 30%. So that's where you want to grab a hold of something that's doing 10 to 30% fluctuation. So you could go up and down on some of the altcoins. But right now, Bitcoins, like I said, like I told you, I had a feeling once this ETF came out with Bitcoin, it was going to drop down.
yep.
But it's staying steady, and I'm surprised it's staying steady. But I'm afraid they're going to tease us with that and then drop it down even lower. So that's the reason why I'm holding off on Bitcoin.
That's
I do want to do some because you brought that up, and I realized I couldn't do that in my self-directed Roth IRA, where I'm running a node and making money on that. But if I wanted to do it here, because like I said, I've got 10 computers over here, I can actually just put a new video card in them and run nodes here already. But you make a lot of noise, but I want to make some money doing that.
yeah, as long
So
if you have the technology to do that, then by all means, right? So I'm gonna do a screen share, and because I had talked a bit about a company that is offering they're very, very active in several blockchains, and they're offering nodes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what that looks like from an opportunity perspective, as well as from a technology perspective. So here we do a screen share. Go here. All right. Okay. So there's a company called Connect, and I registered with it. And Connect is making available a lot of different nodes. And what nodes are? All right, clicked on the wrong thing. Dashboard, my nodes, marketing tools. So projects we love. I'll tell you what, we'll go.
because in 2017, I worked for this company and we use Connect to connect to other computers and servers remotely. And so
Right?
that's their primary business. So I
Yeah,
guess they started on the nodes, so you could connect to the nodes. And that's what the service is all about. You connect to
correct. Where are the nodes? Something changed in my computer. Let me. Okay. So, and I've shared this with you guys before. I've been collecting, still collecting and more information. When I got some cashola, I'm going to buy a number of nodes. But what Connect is doing is they're involved with several different industries that are very active in the blockchain space. The different projects where is it? So Win is one blockchain, Switch is another blockchain, Galvan is another. Switch is in the financial services, it's fintech, and it's one of the original founders of the Discovery card is on board with this, so that you can switch between all your different cryptos and fiat easily. Normally, if you have some of the altcoins, you got to trade them to whichever blockchain they're on, whether it's Ethereum or whether it's Bitcoin, and then sell off your Bitcoin in order. And so Switch is putting fiat right in the middle of all of this stuff. So you can easily sell off your altcoins to convert it to fiat and vice versa. So that's what Switch is doing. Galvan is active in the medical space, healthcare, and like I said, when blockchain first came out, literally every industry in the entire world is going to be revolutionized by the implementation of blockchain, right? And the question is, which blockchain are they going to adapt or adopt, right? Because when there's one and it goes throughout the entire medical industry, that is going to be the main one, and people will become flat out rich. Same thing with the automotive industry, same thing with the insurance industry, same thing. Element here, Element Smart Node has to do with elements, rare earth elements, and where elements are being taken from, what they're trading at. It's in the middle of all of the minerals around the world. The Grow Smart Node is all about organic tracking, where produce is grown all the way to market to end result, so that way you can track this food, what came from this place, and it's truly organic, and being able to track all of the supply chain stuff. So that's what a lot of these nodes are, is they are being utilized in the distribution chains, so that way people can again, the integrity of distribution is going to be governed and secured by blockchain. So what does it mean for us as investors? Again, by registering with Connect, you can now put yourself in a position where you can learn all about this stuff and how everything fits, where industries that are taking off, blockchain and how it's the developments with it as it pertains to a specific industry, or things that are brand new in development. Okay, I'm going to play a clip right now. I'm going to switch my microphone to off.
You surprised me. That's pretty good. You do know this pretty well. But just to give you heads up on these, the ones you just read out, there's different sectors. They're just like, our sectors in the stock market here. So, crypto's going to have 62 sectors. So basically you just called out different sectors in there. But they're still all going to be running. They're all going to run the Bitcoin. I mean the blockchain. But they're all going to be in different sectors. Like you were reading that out, which I'm surprised you studied that, which is good. I'm glad you did. But these are all different sectors. But it's going to be surprising which companies and which nodes are going to last and which one's going to stay around. But you were reading out different sectors. But go ahead.
No, that's the key. Is again, if you're around long enough, you remember the .com boom when all these companies were there, and then the most of it collapsed. But out of that, you got eBay and Yahoo and Google and all these global powerhouses that now control everything. Same thing is going to apply here, and this is how we can get ourselves in. And when you're tapping into nodes, you're not, if this isn't altcoins, you're not buying tokens or things like that. You're actually part of the utility of the operation. You're providing, and nodes is just like a miner, a Bitcoin miner, and that it's validating the transactions. Here's a clip that will help you understand what a node is and what its role is, and more importantly, how we can participate and win. Can you hear this?
What is a blockchain?
Oh, yeah.
To answer this question, let's first consider the rise of shared marketplaces like Uber, Airbnb, and DoorDash. How is it that the largest transportation company on the planet owns no vehicles? The largest hotel owns no properties, and the largest dining service owns no restaurants. These companies all figured out a way to use other people's property and rewards them for participating in this new sharing economy. Blockchain works in a very similar way, except instead of sharing a car or a beach house, you share your computer. Why? Hold that thought for a moment while I ask you another question. Do you know how the internet works? Take your favorite online store, for example. How does the website actually work? How is the payment processed? The fulfillment, tracking, shipping, how does it all work? This is an oversimplification, but the company you're buying from likely has thousands upon thousands of computers, all housed in a central server farm. Each computer is kept busy running calculations, crunching numbers that make your purchase possible from the second you click your mouse to the moment it's dropped on your doorstep. These computers are constantly running behind the scenes to make it all possible. Most tech companies pay millions, sometimes billions of dollars for this kind of an operation. In contrast, blockchain is more like Uber and Airbnb. Instead of coming up with the millions of dollars to buy all the computers to run all these calculations, blockchains operate by sharing other people's computers. Thousands, tens of thousands, even millions of computers all chained together to fulfill whatever the mission is of that specific blockchain community. Many people think blockchain is a technology for cryptocurrency, but that's like saying the internet is a technology for email. Just like a big tech company can be created for any reason, a blockchain can be created to solve virtually any problem you can imagine. But why would someone want to join a blockchain and share a fraction of their computer's power? For the same reason Uber drivers and real estate owners contribute the use of their property: rewards. Unlike Uber, Airbnb, or DoorDash, where ownership and profits are controlled by the few at the top, decentralized blockchain projects are quite literally shared by all community members who connect their computer to a blockchain. It all starts by purchasing a node, a software license that once installed on your computer adds that computer to the blockchain. Your computer joins the army of other computers on the same blockchain. It is put to work, crunching the numbers and performing calculations to assist in the work of the blockchain. In return, community members who operate their node earn digital rewards for doing so. In many cases, these digital rewards can be exchanged for cryptocurrency, giving members real incentive to continue running their node each and every day. And now you know what a blockchain node is, but there's so much more to discover. To learn more about how you can participate in a blockchain community, simply speak to the person who sent you this video.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. So
We
again,
did block off a little bit,
no problem. Hold on.
but I'm just trying to explain to people. The blockchain is actually just like we were back in the early 80s, which we used the network cards and token rings. And the way the token rings work is one could circle, and then each computer would pick out the data and send it back and forth to each other. But it would choke because it would send messages back and forth and it would cause a choke. That was why we got rid of the network cards and token rings, because I used to sell them, I know, and which made good money on them. But we went into the technology layer, which is the application layer, layer 1 of the network. There's 7 layers of networks. The highest level is level 1, which is level 1. Most of our transactions are on level 2 right now, which is fast transaction, but they can be hacked. And that's what they're trying to block. With the blockchain, it's peer-to-peer. So it's hard to, with all the blockchain, it's hard to hack it. So that's why they're trying to make the big banking institutions stronger. That's why this is all about banking institutions, is basically what it is. People don't understand it, but the banking has to be secured so they can move forward, because the second level is what we're on. They're so worried about being hacked all the time.
Right.
But once we get to level 1, peer-to-peer, which is blockchain, the systems work for it, which is a roundabout way, just like we did in network cards and token rings, but it's a higher level, which is, I used to run computers here late at night trying to pick up the high level of security levels. So I had my computers turn it on at certain times, and it would connect together to all computers around the world, trying to find the primary number, which, we got so far up now that the prime numbers, you stack the paper together, that's over 40 miles long. But we're still going for the higher prime number for more security. But the blockchain is all about level 1, and that's the application layer, which is peer-to-peer. When they try to figure out which way that is, where nobody can hack it and all this other stuff, that's why when we got into the crypto a year and a half ago, and all these accounts were getting hacked, people were
Yeah.
getting their money stolen, they were still at level 2. They were cheating us, and they're saying, oh, we're on blockchain, but they were still using level 2, which was easy to get hacked. And
Mm.
that's the problem. And that's why the FCC and this, all that, federal's trying to get down on it and say, look, you're going to do it, you're going to make sure that it's on the right level.
Mm.
And they're just popping them up. But I'm glad you brought this up today, because I know about this already, and I know the nodes and all this other stuff. I mean, it's good, but they're not paying out like they used to be. So you got to figure out your scale between your electricity and how much you do, and be careful, because if you're running too much electricity, then your electricity company will say, excuse me, you're running way too much electricity. And if you go and say, oh, I'm running nodes over here, that's why, immediately they're going to take you off your residential electricity, and you're going to go into commercial rate. So it's going to be a little bit different. But nodes are still a bad way to making money. You just got to figure out how to get around the high cost of electricity and the equipment. But let me ask you a question.
Yes.
You were talking about this. Now, Connect, like I said, Connect works. They work virtually, is what they are. They're a virtual company. They basically, from the beginning, when I worked back in doing network for the hurricane in Florida in 2017, we logged in because we were doing the hospitals and stuff like that. And we logged in here from LA, and we would shut down the servers in Florida before the hurricane hit. And we were supposed to stay 24 hours a day. Once the hurricane hits, we were supposed to, somebody's going to call back and say, we still got electricity, the server's ready, and then remotely we would restart it back up. That's what that company does. That's exactly what they started out their business at. So they did do virtual machines. I want to find out, is this a virtual node that we're on, or is this a physical node that we're actually running?
I don't know, because they have multiple node offerings for depending upon which blockchain you're tapping into. My friend who's probably the most successful crypto guy I know, he has over 500 nodes, and he's bringing home bank. And
if it's virtual nodes, I would love to do it, because
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with it. You put out money, you're still making money. You can put it in your self-directed Roth IRA. You're not physically going there and working on it. Well, they may, because if you're going online and you have to check it out. But if it's physically virtual nodes, and it's you buy the node and it's making itself, and you're not doing any work to make it make money, then you're just creating money. So you put that in your self-directed Roth IRA. But if it's physical nodes, you have to go out and buy them, set them up, put them in a room, hook the
No,
electricity.
I think they're virtual. I'll connect you up with my buddy. He's down in Texas, so he's central.
Because if it's virtual nodes, then it's worth it. It's worth investing in.
Yeah.
But if it's physical, like I said, you got to pay the power, you got to do all this other stuff.
Yeah, no, they didn't discuss any of that, so I believe it's virtual. But I'll get you more information. Again, I'm still collecting information, and that's my job in the equation, is to, when I discover stuff that is worthy of discussing, then we bring it to the table. So
would that be something you can get taxes down to 22%?
You could, if you structured it like you're talking about through your Roth IRA, you can get it down to 0, right?
Well, that's true. But like I said, that's tricky, because it depends on, like, if you have to log in online to work on it, that's still physically working on it. So, but if you got somebody else doing it, and you're not touching it, yeah, then you could do that.
Yeah, I'm sure we could do it that way. So all is good. Very good. I appreciate everybody tonight. Any questions about anything that was covered? Any interest? If you want to know about any of this stuff, send me a message and say, hey, keep me in the loop with that, and I will get you added to the link. Again, for 2024, I cannot encourage you enough to introduce new concepts, travel new directions, new new opportunities, pattern interrupt. You should have multiple things in the fire. And as I've said before, if you have multiple pokers in the fire, how do you divide up your time? Where do you spend your time?
Well, he's in Mexico.
Where do you spend your time, with multiple pokers in the fire, right? The answer is whichever one's generating the most money. Did we lose you? Testing.
Yeah, we lost you.
Okay. So,
All right, so I have two questions for you that involve that.
yeah.
One is, and there are two parts, so you can answer whichever one you want first. One is, don't quite have an understanding of like what a node actually is.
It is either a virtual, like a mine. You know what a miner is? A Bitcoin miner?
Yeah,
Okay. So it's tapping into a specific software and program, and it's verifying the transactions on the blockchain. That's all a node is doing. A Bitcoin miner is a big piece of equipment that sits on a shelf and uses up a lot of electricity. I believe
Send a
that
transaction.
I believe that the nodes are virtual or very efficient. It's the next level rather than doing full-blown Bitcoin miners. They set up these nodes strategically around the world.
so it's no miners, it's basically a virtual,
I believe so. I believe so.
it's a virtual what?
It's like a Bitcoin miner, but it's tapping into the blockchain and verifying the transactions, just like a Bitcoin miner would or a miner would, but except I think it runs a little bit more efficient. It's less
Also had
less
another
cumbersome.
version of Windows, another Windows running. So after a period of time, they've learned that they can actually run machines virtual. It's doing the same thing.
That makes sense?
Computers, those massive computers are running the nodes, is what they are. And so you're making money. You buy a node that's inside there. You're responsible for it. You're responsible for the, I guess, electricity or whatever it needs to be done. That's what your service is for. And it's connected to you and for you personally, and whatever it makes, you get part revenue from it. Because what happens is the way Bitcoin works is Bitcoin is constantly looking for a set of keys and numbers. And once it finds the keys and numbers, it classifies as one block. So it's one block of information. And that one block is secured. It's a secured node, is what it is. And that's what it tries to look for. So you need a processor to keep running and running and running these multiple numbers, and they connect all these little keys together. Once they get them keyed and secured, that's a node. That's what you're running the machine for, is one node. It's like right now, Bitcoin is 22 million Bitcoins that are available for all Bitcoin. Right now, we're at 19,800 Bitcoins. 19,800,000, something like that. So once it gets filled, Bitcoin is actually stopped. You're not going to get any further with the price of Bitcoin. It can fluctuate. Whoever's got all the Bitcoin is going to make it go all the way up. But what that machine does is that all these Bitcoin guys are looking for the secured node. It's a game, is what it is. they're looking for a secure node. Once that node is secured with that secured code, then you can write data to it. And that data is stored forever. That's why you don't lose your keys, because once you buy the Bitcoin, that node has got your certain code on it and you don't lose it. So that's how these things keep running and finding these nodes. That's when people come out with their new crypto, they're running a node because they'll say, hey, we got 16 billion crypto coins available. Okay. They're running nodes. From the beginning, they don't pay you as much. Well, they say they do because they want people on there to do it. But at the very last, they don't pay you as much because it's hard. So that's how they got 5, 6, 7 Bitcoins with buying, getting the nodes and getting all the numbers. So all you're doing is you're building crypto nodes is what you're building. And that's all you're doing is building nodes and you get paid for it. But as for digital currency, we don't know yet. I know we're all fighting this one big time, but even other countries don't want to go digital already. And but yeah, it's going to make things a lot easier. And yes, they will control, but I'm sure there's going to be some kind of rules and regulations before that happens. But I'm hoping it does. So, and I'll shut up. I'll let you talk, Stephen. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. It's we're the bottom line is no matter where we are, we're still very, very early in the game, So
Absolutely.
if you learn it now, you start playing it now, 5 years from now, you'll be glad you did, right? 10 years
Yeah,
from now, you could
all I
be.
can say, the best way to deal with crypto, I'm sorry to butt in, is to get into crypto and learning the exchanges. Like going in there, taking one Bitcoin, you buying, a Dogecoin, and you're turning it over to another coin, and just do the transfer. They charge you for doing that, but just get in there and get used to doing that. Because if we are going to the digital currency, we all need to know how to use the digital exchanges by learning to exchange our currencies. Because instead of shipping the stuff, the companies will say, hey, we're going to buy it from China. So you go online and you'll see something that China has for sale. And I'll cut it off here in a second. You buy something in China at China prices, but you're going to have to buy it at American dollar, but it's showing this price. So you go on there on the crypto and you buy it for China price on the crypto. So, but yeah, I'll shut up. Go ahead, Steve.
No,
So-
that's the whole thing is that, that everything is going to be changing. So now is the time.
So Steve, is that their way of like eliminating like different types of currencies? So like rather than having the Japanese yen and the yuan and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, in essence, yes, but the value with cryptocurrency when it comes to multiple nations, like how Ethereum grew was that it came as a solution to a problem, right? And it was adopted by a few key industries that were interacting. Say you've got a big company down in Brazil, you've got another company over in Europe, you've got another company in North America, and you've got another company in South Africa, and they're all buying and selling and interacting together, right? Rather than them all exchanging their various different currencies, which is very expensive. The banks make oodles of money every time you're swapping things out. They made an agreement where all of our transactions, we're all going to take place with Ethereum, and the smart contract was introduced, right? So rather than the Brazilian companies paid everybody in Ethereum, and the South African companies accepted Ethereum. So it streamlined and reduced all of their banking processes and expenses. And it was so much more efficient. So that's what you have. And so when I talk about specific industries are going to adopt a blockchain, they are going to accept that as a payment, right? There will be tokens that you'll be able to utilize and exchange for that are specific to the healthcare industry, right? Again, whether they'll accept cash we're heading towards a cashless society. So it may be that the only way you can pay for these things is with whatever cryptocurrency they give you. And then you've got to convert, like Jeff was talking about, you have to be able to convert the tokens that you have or the fiat that you have into the mode of exchange, so that way you can pay for your services, right? Everything's changing. Everything's changing. But in the same way, like I live in Mexico, I'm buying things with pesos, but I'm using my American US debit card. Very expensive. It's not that easy. The same thing will take place as we launch into cryptocurrencies, right? And then that's where companies like the one I mentioned, Swipe, or this is Cash App. I use my Cash App card, which I can convert my US currency to Bitcoin, right? This is another Cash App. This is my legacy one, my legacy card. So you're going to have all of these different things that are that are available to you that either make your life easier or more complicated, depending upon where you're at in the equation, right? But we're in the learning process.
So it sounds like banks are going to want to block that because that
That's
costs money.
that's what they've been trying to do. That's why everything was held up. And again, the one cryptocurrency that has made the most advancements with reference to tapping into the banking industry is Ripple, right? XRP. So, but then the SEC came in because they were trying to stop them, right? So governments are constantly, and the banks are constantly trying to stop the advancement. But what we know is that they can only stop it so long. At some point, the floodgates will open up. And the backlash that's taking place right now in this space is the fact that the governments are trying to shelve the independent cryptos in exchange for the government-run cryptos, right? And so we all have to reject the government ones, because that's the reason why we're in crypto, is we don't want the government in our back pocket. We don't want them to have that control.
And they're trying to block us.
Correct. And the game continues, right?
So the government's pretty much, so they're on the side of the banks because they can corrupt things with the banks because they're in league with each other.
Yep.
So I've been hearing though that that the government pretty much created Bitcoin. So if that's the case, would they be able to control if Bitcoin's actually like a cryptocurrency that's being used
You're on the
regularly?
right track. The government did make crypto. I mean, Bitcoin. They did make it. I know. I was around. I watched it. I even seen the guy come in and tried to sell me a Bitcoin for $25 and the card with it back in, what was it, 2011. It was come into the restaurant and tried to sell it. But yes, the government said, that's how come we never know who the guy that created it. I mean, they're always hiding his face. But yeah, the government created because of the 2008 crash. That's what happened, and it was all to do with the banks. And they created this coin so they can actually put the money on there and do whatever they need to do, and then take it right back off. That's what Bitcoin is used for right now.
Everything, in my opinion, everything's an exercise, and we're all just players in the game. And you got to figure out, how can I get what I can,
Who's the first in the game? That's the best.
Because I mean, it would make sense because the government, how the hell would, with all the access that they have, all the money they have, there's no way in hell they wouldn't know who Yakamoto, whatever his name is, or whatever, is. Like, it just doesn't make sense for them to not know. It's just like, how would they not know who killed Kennedy? Like,
Right.
they fucking know. Like, they have to.
Well, it was the government, right? Yeah. Again, but again, that's the point. Is so, keep collecting information, come back, and gradually we'll all be much more educated. All right. So I'm going to bring the call to a close. I appreciate everybody's time and energy. Thank you so much. Thanks for participating. And
what do we have for next week? What do you got plans for next week?
I don't know. It hasn't. I always have some ideas, but I look to see what comes into the fold and what happens in the in the world of politics and stuff, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'd like to know a little bit more about the nodes and the guy
Right.
that. it was-
Well, I can connect you up with Jason, his name. It's not you,
Jason?
Jason, but another Jason, who's down in Texas. And let me see if he can jump on board with us next week and bring us a little bit more information. So, all right.
Yeah, a little bit more about
Yeah,
the trust also, that spin trip trust. I'd like to learn more about that.
we're in the game. We're in the game. All righty. Good
So
stuff,
is this a
guys.
weekly thing?
Yes, every week at this time. So,
Okay.
all right. Take care, everybody. God bless. And again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your trust. I appreciate you. If you need anything, reach out to me. Otherwise, we will see you all next week. God bless.
Awesome.
Have a nice
Thanks.
week.
Take care.